It's finally here. The NFL draft is upon us. One of the greatest times of the NFL season, and easily the best time of the NFL offseason, unless maybe day one of NFL free agency. But man, the draft is where legends are born. This is where franchises are either built or they're doomed to fail. And it seems like every team has had either or of those options recently. But the only problem is with the draft, Alex, and we get ourselves all super hyped up and excited for this thing for like the first hour, and then we kind of get like 2+ days of boredom just trying to get this.
It fizzles off. It fizzles off so hard after that. First, I mean, the thing is like it's the build up for months and months. And even last year, we were talking about Penei Sewell going to the Bengals and Joe Burrow getting a left tackle. So it's like you hear these things for months and months and months. It happens. First pick comes. It's like, okay, this is the guy we're thinking about. And then, like you said, an hour and a half through like the first 15, 16 picks. And especially this draft, because I think it's very top heavy in the first 15. Then it just falls off the table. I mean, first round's over. Recap the first round, then boring.
Right.
Boring.
Sometimes we get a little bit of excitement on like day two. Maybe the second round's a little cool. There's still some of the big names, still some trades being made. But for the most part, you get through like the top 10. It's like, okay, checking the watch here. Can we speed this thing up? Do teams really have to have this long a time on the clock? I mean, come on now. But it doesn't matter because I'm still super excited about it nonetheless. But before we get into the first story of the day, which is the Broncos trading for Teddy Bridgewater, let's go ahead and thank our Patreon supporters. If you want to join this page and become a member of this very prestigious group, you can just go on over to or to patreon.com/fourthalong to get started for just $1 a month. And then next up, for all your sports prop betting needs, it's time just to go to thrivefantasy.com, whether it be NBA, whether it be NHL, whether it be MLB. Super easy, super fun, and a really simple and straightforward way to make some good old hard cash. Well, I guess not really hard cash. You get electronically. You understand what I'm talking
Cash
about.
nonetheless.
Exactly. If you use promo code fourthalong on deposits of $20 and up to $50, they will match you dollar per dollar. So pretty much close to free money right there, as close as you're going to get, quite frankly. Then also, for all your pre-workout needs, if you want this crazy, insane deal, if you only want to pay for shipping, you can. Just go to scgsubs.com to get started on this fantastic deal today. And go ahead and get Swamp Juice, the green apple flavor, because in my opinion, that is hands down the best one. But Alex, like I said, the Broncos, one day before the draft, they go ahead and they trade for Teddy Bridgewater. They send a 6th-rounder over to the Carolina Panthers. And honestly, especially as a Broncos fan, you see me, if you're on video, you see me rocking this sweet orange color John Elway jersey, one of the best uniforms the NFL's ever seen. You go back like a couple shows now and catch our most or our best throwback logos and uniforms. This one's definitely on there. But a fantastic move by the Broncos, quite frankly, because not only does this get you a higher floor of a quarterback, you're not really spending much here in terms of draft capital. I mean, you're not really going to draft like a starting quarterback with a 6th-rounder. That's what you can get here. You can get a 6th-rounder, whether it be to bring in competition for Drew Lock, whether to just bring a veteran presence into the room for Drew, or whether it be you're still going to draft a quarterback this year, but you now have a veteran to kind of play in place before that quarterback, Trey Lance, is ready to start. And so I am pretty happy with this. And now what's open is that the Broncos have gotten interest with that 9th overall pick. I said before the draft anyway, I would love a quarterback, but if not, hey, trade down. You'll need this 9th pick right now, and you could get even more capital in return. I like what George Payton's doing. I like this move. Alex, what do you think about it?
I mean, I think this does a couple things. I mean, I think from the Panthers' perspective, which I'm going to tackle first, I think it does a very similar thing that the Broncos are now in the position of, is it does not take them out of a quarterback and almost opens them up to more of a quarterback instead of having, 3 startable guys in the Panthers room with Darnold, Bridgewater, and potentially a new quarterback into the mix. You remove one of those cogs, keep in Darnold. You don't have that much committed to him in the 2nd, 4th, and 6th rounder. He's still young, but you bring in maybe a rookie there. You have the two fight it out. Competition is always good. People say, you don't want to bring in competition for your young quarterbacks. You don't want to ruin his confidence. But in my eyes, if you have a quarterback that cannot beat out a veteran for that starting spot obviously the coaches are still going to give that young guy leeway if he doesn't, show out as much as the veteran. But if you have a guy that is not alpha enough to beat out Sam Darnold or Teddy Bridgewater for a starting spot, he's probably not your guy anyway. So don't worry about bringing in all this competition and fixating so much on that. So I think that the Panthers, I don't love how, they went from Bridgewater to Darnold, still need a rookie quarterback, and lost a second and fourth round pick. I mean, I think they completely made a lateral move and lost a second and a fourth for giving up Darnold, because if they were going to give up, if they just wanted a veteran quarterback to supplant a rookie quarterback, just keep Teddy Bridgewater. You don't need Sam Darnold. But from the Broncos' perspective, I love what they did there because I think Drew Lock is atrocious. You know that. All the listeners know that. I think Teddy Bridgewater is already miles ahead of where Drew Lock is.
If we're talking at least for accuracy, Drew Lock, one of the, if not the most inaccurate quarterback of last season. Teddy Bridgewater, fourth. So you're already bringing
Drew
that
Lock's
up.
just bad. That's how we can put it. Drew Lock is not good. Teddy Bridgewater is better than Drew Lock right now. But if you're the Broncos, you bring in a rookie quarterback. The last guy I want to put him next to is Drew frickin' Lock. So you bring in Teddy Bridgewater, you at least have an adult in the room, have someone that has played the position before, has done it well, knows the system, is a smart quarterback. And so I think this makes the Broncos even more likely to draft the quarterback. And I think even for the Panthers' sake, it definitely doesn't take him out of a quarterback either. So I think this is a big win for the Broncos, but a bigger win for Broncos fans because I think it sets them up to take a quarterback in the draft a lot more than where they originally were without Teddy Bridgewater.
And I really think, quite frankly, for either team, this is a solid move for both. But for the Broncos, they're in a way better position now with Teddy Bridgewater and down a 6th-round draft pick than they were before this trade was made. I saw a lot of people freak out on Twitter. I said I'm saying by this. This trade was a steal for the Broncos because you get all this upside.
From a value perspective, it's a massive steal.
You get almost no down. There's literally about 0% downside to this. It really makes perfect sense. Hey, George Patton, hats off to you, man. You got another good offseason move with this one. And then one of the other things, Alex, some news I kind of broke out. I think it was Shefty that was breaking out this. Yes. Yeah.
I got one more thing on that. I think this was a big part of the actual trade was the Broncos are only paying $3 million of his $10 million owed this year. The Panthers took 70% of the money off it.
Yeah.
They renegotiated the 2 years left he has on the contract. So Panthers are saving money next year. The Broncos are getting a way cheaper veteran quarterback. And the Panthers made the concession of paying 70% of the guy's contract and only getting a 6th-rounder back. So they were looking to give away Teddy Bridgewater for anything at this point. So great move by Patton again.
Fantastic point, Alex. Thanks for bringing the finances there. That's, I think it's safe to say that's a large chunk of a contract. So the Broncos are one of the better.
70% of a contract is massive.
Right, come on. The Broncos are one of the top teams in terms of cap space. Just make it a little easier for them. Fantastic stuff. Now, what I was getting into is that I think it was Shefty that broke this, Alex, is that the Niners have reportedly narrowed down their 3rd overall draft pick to either Mac Jones or Trey Lance. And as a Niner fan, I would say that this has to be almost terrifying. But we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The Niners, and especially Shanahan, and especially what they've been doing over there, I mean, in terms of, I guess, throwing teams off the scent, and throwing teams off the trail, whether it be in free agency, whether it be in the draft. That's all they've been doing. They're probably the best team in the league at doing that. So, is this legit? Are you buying this? Or is this yet another smokescreen? Now are they going to take, maybe a Justin Fields?
I mean, well, so here's what's going on with the Niners right now. They have all of the sway, all of the power in the draft right now. They can change everything. They went to number 3 with the original assumption that there was 3 quarterbacks they were comfortable taking. And I think throughout this process and in the deep dive, and I originally think that 3rd quarterback was Mac Jones. I think Kyle Shanahan liked Mac Jones. I think they thought he could integrate him well into the system. But over time and actually evaluating these prospects, I think they saw Trey Lance and Justin Fields are now a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And now with that added element into it, I think they have to look at, do they think Trey Lance, as talented as he is, can grasp the Shanahan system? I personally think he is a genius on the football field. I've heard multiple different interviews where they were talking about, they're raving about his whiteboard ability and talking about how well he understands and digests offenses. So I personally think that this is not a smokescreen. I think they've gotten it down to those two guys. They're being very transparent about that. Kyle Shanahan loves Mac Jones, has liked him for a while, thinks they can integrate him to the system. I think the scouting staff and a lot of the front office loves Trey Lance. And this is a lot of what has been talked about in the mainstream media right now. But I don't see a scenario where Kyle Shanahan does not get the guy he likes. So if between the time they made that trade and the draft, if that amount of time Trey Lance has convinced them that he has a higher ceiling than Mac Jones and still can integrate into that system, they go with Trey Lance. I personally think that is a very, very big decision that when they originally traded for 3, they knew who they were going to take. I don't think the time in between that trade and now warrants him completely flipping off of Mac Jones. I still think it's probably 75% likely they take Mac Jones, 20% they take Lance, and 5% they take Fields. Or, throw in that 5%, the Jets getting dumb, taking someone else, and then, maybe Zach Wilson drops or something like that. But I think it's going to be Mac Jones. Peter Schrager said this. He's from the NFL Network. He was comparing – everyone's compared Mac Jones to Kirk Cousins. Everyone knows that. But he was saying he thinks that Kirk Cousins is his floor and his ceiling is a 6'4", 6'5" version of Drew Brees, which I personally – he kind of sold me on it because he was talking about how Mac Jones grew up. His mom, his dad, his 2 sisters were all tennis players. He was a tennis player growing up, a very, very good tennis player. It kind of goes back into his back. He's a country club kid. He looks like it. He's got the body of a country
Come
club.
on now.
But those tennis players, they have incredible footwork, and I think it would really mirror how well he moves inside the pocket. He's got the lateral quickness. He's got the forward sliding up and back in the pocket quickness. He's not a burner. He's not fast, but he's got the short, quick twitch movements. So having a inherently lower ceiling with Mac Jones because of everything athletically that Trey Lance can do, but having that Kirk Cousins floor to Drew Brees ceiling, I'm okay with that at 3. I still love Trey Lance. I still think he has the highest upside out of anyone in this draft, but I'm okay with Mac Jones, and I'm starting to be resigned to the fact that they're probably going to pick Mac Jones, and I'm gonna have to be okay with that. So it may just be me trying to justify it to myself, but I don't think this is a smokescreen. I think it's down to those 2 guys. I'd be shocked if it was anyone but Mac Jones or Trey Lance.
The kind of problem here, though, is, Alex, I don't think that a Mac Jones, if you take Mac Jones to draft him as a quarterback, that's not a bad move, like in a vacuum. But the fact that the Niners traded all of this capital to move up to number 3, this could be a large overstep. You did need to move up to 3 if you're going to take Mac Jones. You could move up to like Denver's 9 and taking Mac Jones. You could have moved up to like maybe a Dallas 10 to take Mac Jones. You don't need the 3, so that's why even if they get their guy, it's still going to be a bit confusing on why they made such a huge trade as they did. I guess they were thinking that there's going to be a lot more hype around Mac Jones than there really ever panned out to be.
Yeah.
So that could be a mistake.
Here's the bigger issue is Kyle Shanahan, deservedly so, I think is one of the most self-confident, borderline arrogant coaches that we have in the NFL. But the thing is, it's all warranted because I think he's the best offensive mind in the NFL. And I'm going to say it, I don't think it's close. He knows what he likes. He knows his system. So I think he convinced the ownership. He convinced the general managers that if I get this guy at 3, we already know who 1 and 2 is. If I get this guy at 3, I promise you I will turn him into an all-pro quarterback. And I think that the thought process was he would be so sick to his stomach if anyone else traded up for 3 and grabbed Mac Jones that he couldn't live with himself with it. So at the time, they're thinking, do whatever you need to do, get Mac Jones. I don't care if that's 3. I don't care if that's whatever it is. Make sure we get Mac Jones. And at that point, a month away from the draft, a month away from the draft, I think they had to do the safest thing possible to get Mac Jones. In hindsight, it's probably going to look dumb, but if they get their guy at the end of the day, that's all I care about because Kyle Shanahan, it's now all on him, and I have the most confidence in Kyle Shanahan as a decision maker and as an offensive coach.
At least, I guess, one saving grace, too, is that although they traded away a lot of these assets, it's not like they need to draft a lot of other players to really complete this team either. So if they're able to get their guy, and if he's the guy Shanahan thinks that he is, they're going to a Super Bowl with this team. So that will work out ultimately in the end. And kind of in the same notion of trading up for quarterbacks, let's talk about maybe some teams that maybe not for quarterbacks, but teams that should trade up in general. One of the teams that has been talked about is the New England Patriots. They might be trading up. We got the Niners probably not taking Justin Fields now. He probably drops out of the top 5 at the least. Maybe that's leaves room for the Patriots to move on up there and to snag their guy for the future. Maybe a way more athletic version of Cam Newton and a guy that can actually throw the football. So maybe not Cam Newton at all. Maybe that's just an awful comparison. I don't want to insult Justin Fields like that. Man, I saw some dude on Twitter today really trying to defend a 8 pass touchdown, 10 interception passing season from Cam Newton today. Twitter is just a wild place, Alex. That... Come on, some people. But the Saints, now they've been talking about trading up as well. But also, they've been talking about keeping their pick, which is the number 28 spot in the draft, and taking a guy they've been doing a lot of homework on, which is Florida's Kyle Trask. And now, just keep that in your head once we get to our or once we get into our next segment. Just keep that in mind. We will be bringing him up again. The Washington football team has also been rumored to try to make a huge leap into the top 10. Maybe it's for the quarterback. Maybe it's not. I mean, it probably would not be a bad thing to take a quarterback at this point in time if you're Washington. But also, they've been trying to get a little more offensive help, maybe offensive line. There's also been a lot of talks for defense. Washington has a lot of things that they could do in this draft. I don't think they're one of these more under-the-radar teams, along with maybe the Bears as well, a little more under-the-radar team that can make a huge trade, maybe even on draft day, to move up and take a quarterback. What do you think about these?
I think that there's a couple teams that should definitely trade up, and I love how, and we're all privy to this, is the only teams that are really, really confident or trying to trade up, 9 times out of 10, it's for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Who are the teams that need a quarterback? The teams we just rattled off. And I think a lot of what's going to happen is all going to be predicated on who do the Niners take at 3? How does 4, 5, 6, and 7 shake out? Because if the Niners take Mac Jones at 3, I think Mac Jones was the quarterback that was most likely to fall. So if they take him at 3 and you still leave Justin Fields and Trey Lance, who are these uber athletes, very, very talented, a lot of different teams could try to convince themselves that this is our guy, this is the next Patrick Mahomes, this is the next NFL MVP, that we're going to see a lot more action. And it's going to take teams like the Saints, the Bears, and the football team, it's going to take them significantly more to move up because it's going to be those top 10 picks. Because Fields and Lance, if they keep falling, more teams are calling. Yep. And the Patriots.
That's a good one, real quick, man. That's a quote right there, the kid.
That kind of just came off. Yeah. I like that. When I said that too, I was like, I probably should have set that up a little better.
That's really good.
But I mean, yeah, the more quarterbacks that are falling, the more teams that begin to call. That's how it works. People trade up for quarterbacks. People want the quarterbacks. There's 5 quarterbacks in this draft. And you just mentioned the 6th one, which I think we're going to talk about later. But if Kyle Trask keeps falling, we saw this 3 years ago. Teams want that extra 5th year of control, and they want another cheap option. And if some team convinces themselves that Kyle Trask could be a quarterback that you can win with in the NFL, they're going to do whatever they can to get back into those last 4 spots of the first round to get that quarterback and get him under one more year of control. So we might see the Saints stay there, draft him. We might see teams try to sneak back into the first round. Maybe a team that passes on, maybe a team like the Panthers or the Broncos or the Patriots or any of those teams. If they pass on a quarterback with their first pick, you might see them try to slide in and try to get back into the back end of that first round to get that quarterback. But, I think it's again, it's all going to depend on what guy do these teams like. You're not trading up for a chance at a quarterback. You're trading up for a specific quarterback. So if that specific quarterback falls, there's going to be action. And I think the most likely outcome is Giants or the Niners take Mac Jones at 3, and we see a lot of action for teams trying to trade up and get those other 2 guys.
Man, I really hope that happens. For my sake, for the Broncos' sake, I hope that Mac Jones goes to the Niners. And I hope for just a NFL fan's sake that Mac Jones goes to the 49ers, because there's going to be a lot of moving around, a lot of phone calls being made this year, and a lot of upward movement. Man, it's just almost chaos at times. So fingers crossed, Alex, that we just get this. This may very well, we were talking about earlier, we get like that hour of the really solid hour, maybe 2 hours of joy. This has a chance of prolonging that a little bit longer. So fingers crossed that we do get to see this actually pan out.
Everyone keep an eye out on number 7. I think number 7 is the most tradable pick in the first 10 picks besides 4. I think 4 is going to be too expensive, and I think the Falcons are almost fixated on Kyle Pitts now.
Yeah, they're pretty much just sitting
number
there.
7. 7 is going to be the movement spot.
And especially if you're at the Detroit Lions, the Lions could have a number of options here. It's not like they really need the 7th overall pick. So
they need a ton. They need a ton. So 1.7 is not going to change their outcome of their future. Trading that pick might give them a little more juice moving forward.
Well, they trade back. They potentially pick up a second first-round draft pick for next season. So, man, if you're Detroit, you might actually want this to go down. But there's a reason. I was telling you to keep Kyle Trask in your head. And it was a short kind of little time frame to do this, so I really hope you remembered. Really hope you did. But we're going to move on into some really fun draft prop bets. So it part like anything big, draft, Super Bowls, just playoffs or the season in general, prop bets are always a whole hell of a lot of fun to bet on, because there's not like a whole bunch of seriousness going into it. A little more understand, and it's a little more fun just because, I don't know, it's a lot harder to really tell what the hell's going to happen, so it's more of a crapshoot. And crapshoots are fun. But the first prop bet I want to put out there is that over 5.5 quarterbacks are taken in the first round. This is currently at plus 375 on the betting odds.
I love this bet because, just like I said, we already know 5 is going to happen between picks number, and I think a lot of those top 5 quarterbacks, if not all of them, are going to be in the top 10. So, but for 22 picks, you have the chance of getting 1 quarterback. That's, to me, that's a fun kind of bet where it's like you're already at the point, now you just need 1 more, and you're going to have 2 hours sitting on it talking about, like, you're going to listen to Mel Kiper, you're going to listen to all the guys doing the draft coverage. Like, anytime you hear a quarterback, you're like, oh, this could be the one. This could be the one that gets me over. And with the whole contracts thing, and how many times in the last 3 years compared to the previous 10 years have we heard about the damn salary cap? Everyone talks about the salary cap now. It's a huge thing. So
us included. I am a huge problem with talking about the salary cap. Admittedly.
Yeah, it's annoying to talk about, but everyone talks about it now because it's kind of mainstream. So everyone is jockeying for these advantageous contract positions and contract spots to put themselves in. So going back into the first round, like did the Ravens trade up for Lamar, or did they?
They stayed. They stayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you see teams that are more willing to take, and the Chiefs did this last year with Clyde too. They want those skill position players that get significantly more expensive in their second contract. They want an extra year of cheap labor from them, and so teams will do anything they can to get that quarterback on the extra year of control and on an extra year of cheaper than $30 million a year salary. So I think this is I think this should be more towards like plus 150, 175, but at plus 375, that is value and a half. I would smash this one.
Man, this is plus 375 right now. I might have to get started on a little DraftKings account, man, because if I throw $20 on this, I think I have a really good chance of making some money on draft night. Because if you run through just the top 5 quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson are guaranteed to be drafted 1 and 2. 99.9999, whatever the hell you want to call it, they're going to be drafted 1 and 2. Justin Fields, he's going to be taken in the first round. Trey Lance, he's going to be taking the first round. Mac Jones probably going to be taking number 3 overall. So you already got your 5 quarterbacks right there. I would say probably in the first 7 to 9 draft picks. I don't even think it makes it the Cowboys' 10th that we get to see these 5 quarterbacks go off the board. And then the last couple ones, you have Kyle Trask, like we mentioned. The Saints, really interested in Kyle Trask at 28 right there. But another quarterback that might not be talked about, it's probably because he's a second-round talent at best, but Stanford's Davis Mills is also pretty high up on the quarterback tier. He's almost even with Kyle Trask. I think a lot of people might have gone a little sour on Kyle Trask from that god-awful Cotton Bowl performance that really just wasn't his fault. And I really didn't want to put too much weight into that game anyway because, I mean, he looked fantastic through most of the season. He has one bad game against a solid opponent in his team. The Florida kind of craps the bed on their own, so he was kind of left out there hanging to dry.
And Pitts didn't even play in that game, too.
Exactly. Arguably the best receiving talent in the draft didn't play in that game, so that's going to hurt you a little bit. But I still like what Kyle Trask can do. He's a second-round caliber quarterback. He's a second-round talent, but at the same time, he's probably... Alex, come on. How many times, if I had nickel for every time a second-round talent got taken in the first round, a third-round talent got taken in the second round, hell, sometimes even the first round, I would be a rich man at this point, and I would be owning one of these teams that is partaking in the NFL draft. So, Kyle Trask probably goes in the first round. I do like that move to the Saints because, honestly, I don't really know what else the Saints are going to do right now, maybe besides defense. I like them getting possibly quarterback in the future, especially if they've been this hot and have been doing this much research and studying on Kyle Trask. So, I like this bet. I'm going to take this bet all day, taking the over on 5.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. The other one is one that might be a little bit less likely to take, but surprisingly comes at closer to even odds, and that is that Travis Etienne is going to be the first running back taken off the board.
I'm going to take a deep breath on this one. And also just for the just to put it in layman's terms, when we say plus 175 or plus 375 or plus 160, all that means is on a $100 bet, the payout is 160. So it's
Thank you. Yeah.
60, that much more likely to happen. If you have a minus 200, you're betting 100 to win 50. So it's same thing. Everything's based around 100. But there's absolutely no chance this happens. There's literally, I'm not going to say literally, but I think these two odds should flip. I think Travis Etienne to be the first running back taken should be like plus 500, and over 5.5 should be like plus 150. So I would almost go the other way and say Travis Etienne is not the first running back taken at minus 200 and hammer that one, because I think Najee Harris is a significantly better prospect than Travis Etienne. Etienne catches the ball a little better, but that's kind of why Najee Harris went back last year. There was a much better draft or running back class last year than there was this year, and I think Najee would have had a little more competition to be one of the top running backs taken, but he went back to college to show he could catch the ball, and Najee put up some really, really good receiving stats, which I'm going to pull up right now. But he showed that he had that ability, and he showed that aspect of his game, and he showed that he can be a 3-year running back. And so here's in 2020 last year. So he went from 27 catches for 304 in 2019 to 43 catches for 425. So he showed that he has the volume. He can run multiple routes out of the backfield. We already know he's an incredible runner, and he kept even with the increased volume, he increased his average output from 1,500 yards in 2019 to almost 1,900 yards in 2020. So he in the same amount of games too. So his just average per game went significantly up. So I don't see any way this happens. I would be shocked if Etienne was the first running back off the board, and I would not feel good about myself if I advise you to go a different way.
So you kind of got to look at team needs in this one. There's two teams that really stand out in the first round that are going to take a running back, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially after losing James Conner, and that is the Buffalo Bills, who could have been a much much better team if they actually had a legitimate run game and weren't really relying on Josh Allen to pick up most of their rushing yardage. So, a running back would really set these teams over the edge. At least it'll set the Bills over the edge. For the Steelers, it'll just really help with them, and it'll help a really aging and struggling quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger, because God bless you if you have to rely on the arm of Big Ben to win you football games. That's not the move at this point. Maybe 5-6 years ago, maybe. Modern day, hell no. So right now, Pittsburgh has the number 24 overall pick. The Buffalo has the 30th overall pick. These two running backs, Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, are going to be taken to one of these two teams. I'd be more than willing to bet on this. And then so you kind of got to look at this. Fit a team's needs. Going to what the Steelers have had since they're the first pick out of these two teams. They've had a Le'Veon Bell, and they've had a James Conner. Two guys that aren't really... I think they're closer to the mold of Travis Etienne than they are Najee Harris. Najee Harris closer to a Derrick Henry, with that Alabama pedigree, with guys that are mostly... They're really good.
Derrick Henry would never have 43 catches in the college season, Ross Allen. He's
closer. Don't call me... He's no Derrick Henry. He's closer than what Travis Etienne is what I'm saying. It's more. He's closer. No, hell no. I mean, if Derrick, imagine if Derrick Henry could catch 10 passes a game. It'd be out in space.
It'd be insane. Yeah.
Cheat code. Literally, the greatest player to ever grace the gridiron is what that would be. Even if you could just get 5. Oh my. Derrick Henry on a swing route. Imagine trying to tackle him in the open field when he has a head of steam. I'd rather just, dig my own grave before he gets there.
Yeah, I'm not.
And then with the Steelers, do we really trust him as an organization? I trust the Bills as an organization. After what they've done with Big Ben and what they've done with Mike Tomlin, I don't trust him, Alex. That's why I'm cool with this bet. Travis Etienne to the Steelers. He's the first one off the board. Now, I'm not saying it's the best pick, but I'm saying that it's more than likely going to happen. I like this, mostly for a lack of confidence in Steelers. Take that. Is that more of a dig? Is that more of a praise for Travis Etienne? More of a dig at the Steelers? You decide down in the comments. The other one is that Kyle Pitts will be taken after the 5th overall pick. So he's either going to be 6 or above. This is at plus 140. And there's no way he makes it past Atlanta. There's no way in hell, quite frankly.
No, this is a horrible bet. Take the under and take it every day of the week, because if the Falcons don't draft him, the Bengals definitely will, because the Bengals are looking at adding an offensive weapon. Mm-hmm. And the best offensive weapon in this draft is Kyle Pitts, hands down. So even if they are talking about Jamar Chase and Jamar Chase is the pick, if Kyle Pitts is on the board there, they're taking Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
And I would be very confident in the fact that I think there's about 80% chance that Atlanta takes Pitts. And then I think there's, maybe a 25% chance that if Pitts doesn't go at 4, he goes at 5.
Mm-hmm.
So you take those two odds and you say, I'm pretty confident that Kyle Pitts is going under 5.5 draft position. So I do not like this bet at all. I would definitely go the other way and go under 5.5 on Kyle Pitts. Even if it's juiced, even if it's got not great return on it, I still think Kyle Pitts is so freaking talented that he's going in the top 5.
Yeah, I really don't see this going any other way, quite frankly. The other one is that while the Carolina Panthers, we mentioned earlier, they trade away Teddy Bridgewater. Now they really only have Sam Darnold and also MVPJ Tucker on that team, or MVPJ Walker, XFL great, all-time Houston Roughnecks legend, uncrowned XFL champions.
Undefeated.
I can go on and on about the best team in XFL history, but we'll stick with the NFL and wait till 2022 once the XFL hopefully returns. But this next bet is that the Panthers, their first pick in number 8 overall, is going to be a quarterback. Odds at plus 425, and I think there's a lot of truth to this. There's a number of things that the Panthers could do, whether it be on defense, whether it be taking one of the higher offensive line prospects to help shore it up and help to actually build around Sam Darnold, which is what it seems like they might try to do. So I wouldn't really put it past them. But at the same time, Do we really think Sam Darnold's is going to be the option long term? If you're me, hell no you don't. Because that ship has sailed. Sam Darnold has sailed ever since he was drafted by the Jets. They immediately ruined him as soon as they touched him. But I like Carolina. I like Carolina 8. You could still get a good quarterback in number 8, especially depending on what happens with the first 3 picks. Hell, Trey Lance might be able to fall to number 8. So I do like this as a good prop bet.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like I think all quarterback bets and all the bets right now that involve some sort of quarterback action, taking it, not taking them, how many quarterbacks, where is this person going to go? I always lean towards the quarterback is the most important position on the field by far. Mm-hmm. So teams are just more likely, more willing to go above and beyond to get that quarterback. So the Panthers taking a quarterback at the first pick, given the fact that Bridgewater's gone, given the fact that even though they got Sam Darnold, they didn't invest a ton. I think plus 425 is incredible value. This should be closer to 200, 250. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think all that we've talked about is Sam Darnold is most likely not your long-term answer there. So why wouldn't the Panthers, if the position, if someone if Fields or Lance fell to them at mm-hmm. 8, they would be kicking themselves if they watched that player be Patrick Mahomes for the next 10 years. Right. So they're just going to do whatever they can to make sure that their 5-10-year plan is secure, and the only way to do that is with the quarterback. So if one of those guys falls to them at 8, they're probably going to take a quarterback.
You have to at that point. And then that kind of ties into the last prop bet that I'm going to give you guys is that Trey Lance, his draft position is going to be over 6.5. This with a plus 115 bet. And this would not surprise me in the slightest, because especially depending on if the Niners pass on Trey Lance at number 3, there's a fantastic opportunity that Trey Lance kind of gets closer to that kind of 10th spot in the draft. So over 6.5, I think the really only bet here is you're betting if the Niners are going to take Mac Jones or Trey Lance. If you think they're going to take Mac Jones, I think you take this bet.
Yeah, I think this is a good bet as well. The only thing that concerns me is 4. But I think did you see by any chance what Fields' number was?
No, this is just I didn't get Fields' number.
I think
it's going to be something. It's something closer to this. So it's
around like 7.5 or 8.5 or something mm-hmm. like that. So I would say this: if both of Trey Lance and Justin Fields have a number that's under 7.5, like mm-hmm. either 6.5, 7, 7.5. If it starts to get to 8, where the Broncos are taking him, I would say this is not a good strategy. But I would say if both of them are plus money, mm-hmm. you put money on both of them, because one of the two is going to fall to the Broncos and pass the Broncos potentially. So right now, from an evaluation standpoint, I think every single team is all over the place on these 4 guys or these 5 guys. Mm-hmm. And so unless you think you're a talented GM and a talented film evaluator and can, match these guys up to the teams that they want, I think that's just a crapshoot. So you almost have to play the odds and the fact that one of Trey Lance or Justin Fields is going to drop past 7 into 8 to 9 to 10. So if you put these two together and you make that bet in conjunction with mm-hmm. each other, the only thing that screws you is the Niners not taking Mac Jones and someone trading up to 4 to grab the other quarterback. So I think the only thing that trips me up with Lance, doing this with Lance over Fields, is there's still a chance that Lance gets taken at 3. And with mm-hmm. Fields, I don't think there's that chance. So if Fields' number is completely different than Lance's, then that's a different story. But if they're both around this 6.5, 7.5 number, I think you take them both over and you pray that one of them falls.
And now if you really just want to make a boatload of money, what you do is you make a absolutely gnarly parlay. And you do all 5 of these and you take the betting odds on every single one of these, because that would rack you up some serious cash if you take...
Except Travis Etienne one.
No, even that one, that'll get you... well, I guess if you want to be safe, you take you take the favorite on that one. I don't know, maybe you leave that one. But with these, if you take the 4... you might be racking in a serious amount of cash. Let me tell you that much. And then keeping it in the theme of our NFL draft special, let's have a absolutely special NFL draft themed buy or sell segment. Roll it.
We want a ball, we're gonna score.
Tell them to bring me my money. Yeah!
Dollar bills, y'all.
So we buying or are we selling?
And then welcome to our buy or sell segment, because if you don't know how this works, it's all good. I forgive you. Just listen to the other episodes. I think you'll be pretty good, and you'll thank yourself for it. But how we do this, we give you 5 statements, and it's up to you of whether you're going to buy it or you're going to sell it. And Alex, the first statement I have for you today is kind of in conjunction with the Broncos trading for the Teddy Bridgewater, with saying that 6th overall pick or the 6th rounder. Excuse me. Imagine spending a 6th overall draft pick on Teddy Bridgewater. That's how you get fired, ran out of the city, and possibly just ransacked at that point in time by an angry mob with a bunch of pitchforks.
Deported.
Straight up sent out of the country. But the first statement is going to be that the Broncos are still drafting a quarterback this year.
Completely buy. I think we've talked about this enough. Broncos are still in need of a quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is not the answer. Drew Lock is definitely not the answer. They will be drafting a quarterback. I think just the way this phrase is worded too, I would guarantee you that the Broncos are drafting a quarterback at some point in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's kind of 2 schools that thought about this, is whether you're a fan, whether you're a believer or a non-believer in Drew Lock. Now, personally, I've lost my Alex. Don't let me get this out. I've lost my taste on Drew Lock. I've lost really kind of my. I know.
No, not him.
Okay, you're being sarcastic, but it's such a big deal for me, man. I'm a little torn up on this because I love him as a player. I love him as he's exciting, but on the sideline, he's exciting. But on the field, that's a whole different quarterback. And so I like him on the bench. I like his little dances. I like his interviews. I like his energy. But I don't like his accuracy, and I do not like his decision-making. Those are
kind of a prerequisite for a quarterback of a national football team. But
that's a problem we stand in. But if you want to play devil's advocate for Drew Lock, he's only had a season and a half of actual NFL experience. And last year was Rona year. It was a weird year, and then also he was missing. The Broncos are almost completely on the injury reserve for 75% of the season. So you can throw that in. This year, during the offseason, he's been training with Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever grace the gridiron. Drew Lock's going to come back with a size XXL helmet because his forehead's going to grow a couple inches just by being in proximity with Peyton Manning for that long. So you can make the argument for Drew Lock. You can make the argument to give him maybe 5 more games, definitely not another full season. But you can still see if he has anything left. And at the very least, bring in a quarterback competition and have either your quarterback for next year is going to be Drew Lock or it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater. And go ahead and not draft and trade back. But I'm still going to buy this statement. It's really close. I really want to sell this just because I think the Broncos are going to be better off trading back anyway and getting a little more draft capital, and because I don't think they really need the number 9 spot. But I think more than likely they're going to be taking a quarterback, especially with this move for Teddy Bridgewater. I'm buying this statement. Next one is going to be that Trey Lance has a higher ceiling than Trevor Lawrence.
Buy 100%. I love Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance is the best quarterback in this draft. I think he's got the lowest floor, but his ceiling is so freaking high because he's a jumbo-sized throwing. He's a jumbo-sized version of what every single GM and quarterbacks coach wants. They want a guy who's athletic, who has a cannon for an arm, does not turn the ball over. When you watch the tape on this guy, when he runs the ball, he's not one of those Lamar Jackson, jitterbug kind of guys. He's a downhill, run through a guy, break tackles. Arm tackle will not handle this guy. He's Cam Newton, a little bit smaller with a much higher ceiling throwing the ball.
Josh Allen with more speed?
He's very, very similar build to Josh Allen. Very, very similar arm talent.
Also, 2 small schools in the North Midwest And with
I
Wyoming,
mean, just
North
imagine
Dakota,
if Josh Allen ran a 4.5, that's Trey Lance. And it's literally just
that's frightening.
Does the transition from small school to NFL work like it did with Josh Allen? I personally think it does because we've seen this work previously. Carson Wentz, no matter how you slice it, he was almost an MVP in this league. Josh Allen, same way. Trey Lance, same exact way. And you look at him, his father was a professional athlete. His mother was athletic as well. He's grown up in that kind of environment. He's incredibly sharp on the board. Trey Lance is going to be a stud.
Well,
I think he's got a higher ceiling than Trevor Lawrence.
What I like most about Trey Lance is that he's just like a gamer. He's a grinder. I love what his comments about the draft. I love how he likes just to prove people wrong. I know we get those statements all the time by these guys. I mean, come on, it's almost a cliche at this point. But with the limited experience that we've seen of him, especially from last year, he had like one showcase game, but that was about it. I just like every sign that I've seen from Trey Lance is only pointed to boom instead of bust. There's always going to be that chance of, because like you said, Alex, his floor is pretty low. It's pretty low, but that ceiling, man, that ceiling. And then the thing is, like, at least with my mindset, there's two quarterbacks and there's two kind of quarterbacks. There is a floor raiser, and there is a ceiling raiser. And 9 times out of 10, I am taking the ceiling raiser. Because that's just the kind of football I like. That's the kind of person I am. That's the kind of fan I am. That's the kind of coach I am. I like that. I'm not sure if I'm willing to say that Trey Lance has a higher ceiling than Trevor Lawrence just yet. Just because Trevor Lawrence is the more proven commodity. We've seen way more of him. We've seen him way more of him in bigger games as well against the top teams in that the college football has to offer. So,
Trevor Lawrence is a pretty damn perfect prospect.
I mean, it's really hard to get much more perfect than that, unless maybe to some coaches they don't like the long hair. I guess that's about the worst.
That's low-key it.
It really is. Well, yeah.
Someone did make a comment. They're like, have you ever had a long-haired quarterback win an NFL title? And the answer is no.
You know, they got a point right there.
They kind of got it. But also, how many long-haired quarterbacks have we even had in the NFL? So it's like...
Also, every long-haired quarterback you really think of has been an absolute star in any football movie you've ever seen, i.e. Sunshine. So, there's some stuff right in for him. I'm going to sell this statement, but it's not because I don't have a disbelief in Trey Lance. I love Trey Lance, but I just have a lot more confidence and a lot more faith in Trevor Lawrence just because I've seen him. We've seen what he can do. So I'm taking the ceiling, and because he could be like a freaking Joe Cool in this league. You think Storm like Joe Montana? Trey Lance, he could be Patrick Mahomes, but also there's still a debate there on which quarterback you want. I mean, I'm probably taking Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes, Joe Montana, that debate is going to be raging in the years to come, definitely for sure, as Patrick Mahomes builds up that resume. Selling this for now, though.
Also, I don't know. I don't remember quite where I heard this from, so I apologize. But they were talking about Trey Lance in that showcase game, and they asked him. They said, like, why did you even play that game? You had all that hype, all that buzz. You didn't need it.
Yes.
The reason he freaking played that game, which baffled my mind, was because there were a ton of guys on the North Dakota State football team that if they don't play that game and they don't play that season, their partial scholarships do not kick in because they don't have a season. So he played that game not only to have this showcase game, but he also did it because a bunch of his teammates now got their school paid for, now at a season, because there's no way North Dakota State's having a season unless they play that game for Trey Lance. They did that for Trey Lance. So the fact that he was so selfless that he was like, okay, I could either opt out, which a ton of my colleagues are doing, which a bunch of the guys that are in a similar position are doing, or I can go out, attach my name to this one game. So all my guys, all my brothers, all get a scholarship that were eligible for one. So I think that was a massive, massive character move by Trey Lance. I think it shows a lot about the type of guy he is, the type of teammate he is. I love this prospect. I love Trey Lance. I think he's going to be incredible. I'm going to be heartbroken when the Niners don't select him, but if they do somehow, I will be the happiest man.
Character is, you can't really overlook it. That's a huge thing that goes into your draft prospects. Next statement is that Penei Sewell is going to fall out of the top 5 of the draft this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to buy it because we've talked about it for a while.
The Falcons or the Bengals are going to mess up. The Falcons might mess up.
Yeah, one of these teams, everyone gets so enamored by film study, by highlights, by points that you forget where the foundation comes from for all these guys. And Penei Sewell, well, the fact that, again, like I said last week, I don't think he's hands and feet ahead of the other tackles in this class, but he's a very, very good prospect. He is a top 5, top 3 offensive lineman. And, I think that the Bengals, they have a clear need at left tackle. They would love to get that guy.
We're saying Riley Reiff isn't the guy?
I'm saying Riley Reiff is probably not the guy. You don't typically find guys in free agency that are just going to slide in and protect your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. But
the one that's already torn his knee.
Yeah, so I think he will fall to the top 5, so I'm going to buy the statement. I think it's dumb as I'll get out, but that's what they're going to do.
I am delusional. I am absolutely delusional with this statement, Alex, because I'm going to sell it just because there's still a part of me, a large part of me, that just is praying and hoping for Joe Burrow's sake and for the NFL and for the league's sake that the Bengals take Penei Sewell, number 5, and that they protect one of the greatest rookies that the sport's ever going to see, and a guy that's going to be one of the most elite players in the NFL in years to come. The NFL needs this guy to be healthy. The Bengals need this guy to be healthy. So all signs are pointing to Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts if that somehow happens. But man, I'm selling it out of false hope, and I have no confidence in the Bengals. But please, 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 take Penei Sewell. But just if you're going to do one thing, take him. Next statement, Alex, is that this one you kind of already went over with in our prop betting, talking about Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, that Etienne's going to be the first running back taken in the draft. Travis Etienne is going to be a better running back than Najee Harris.
I'm going to spend 10 seconds on this because I just typed it out. You're an idiot if you think this is true. Najee Harris is significantly better than Travis Etienne. I'm probably going to look dumb if Etienne ends up being the next Alvin Kamara, but when Najee Harris ends up being Derrick Henry that can catch, you guys will forget that I said this. So, yeah, I'm going to sell it. I think it's dumb. I think Etienne is not a better prospect. I think Najee is far and away better. So, you're an idiot.
I guess if you're looking for just a pass-catching running back, then Etienne, he's a clear answer here. He's obviously the more NFL-ready pass-catching running back. But if you're looking for...
You don't draft the pass-catching running back in the first round.
Exactly. If you're looking for a pass-catching running back, you maybe wait till the second or third.
Or they could go undrafted. Like J.D. McKissick. Those guys are undrafted. James White. Like, all these guys are...
Phillip Lindsay. One of these guys. There's talent there. When you draft a running back, especially in the first round, you need the most proven commodity. You need the guy that's going to be able to do everything as best as possible. And you're going to need the guy that, Alex, what's the most important thing that a running back does for a team? They run the football. It's in the name. It's that simple. You don't draft a pass catching running back in the first round, and a pass catching running back is almost never going to be better than a running back that is closer to the full package. Najee Harris, he is by far the better rusher out of these two. And like as you already pointed out earlier in the show, Alex, with his pass receiving stats, he's not Travis Etienne, but he's very close. He's competitive to Etienne, and he's probably one of the second best pass catcher running backs in the draft, at least in top 5. No, Najee Harris is better than Travis Etienne. We're selling this statement all day. And kind of to put it close to you, Alex, it's not close, right?
Not close at all. I mean, it's just, no.
And the last statement that's going to cap us off for this segment is that no matter which position he's taken in, Justin Fields is going to be the steal of the 2021 draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sell the statement because it's kind of a ridiculous statement to make that only one guy. Like, you're giving me one guy or the field. So
yep, I'm definitely
going to take. I think I'm going to take the field. No pun intended there. But yeah, I honestly think if Penei Sewell keeps dropping and Rashawn Slater keeps dropping, I think Slater and Sewell are very, very, very talented offensive linemen. So if they keep falling, if they get any of those guys out of the top 10, I think that's going to be the steal of the draft.
If they get him out of for the Broncos, man, that'd be disrespectful if Sewell drops out of the top 10, quite frankly. And I'd be, let's throw in the word flabbergasted. I'll use that word. I would be flabbergasted if Penny Sewell somehow drops out of that top 10 spot. Justin Fields, on the other hand, I think there's a really good chance that he might drop out of the top 10 completely. Just depending on what happens, I think teams are a little more hot on Trey Lance than on him, especially Niners. The top 3 picks, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and then Mac Jones. Next pick's probably going to be Trey Lance. And then Fields has a really good chance of dropping out of the top 10. I think if you get a guy like Justin Fields, where outside the top 10 especially, imagine the Patriots sitting there number 15. If Justin Fields drops to you in number 15, that is a ginormous win, and that is by far a steal. So while, maybe not. If Justin Fields drops out of the top 10, he is going to be the steal of the draft, and I would love to buy this statement. But that's going to wrap it for our buy or sell segment. Let me know what you think, whether you guys are going to buy each of these or whether you're going to sell them. Leave that down in the comments on YouTube or hit us up on the social medias at Twitter at Fourth Long Radio, Instagram at Fourth Long Radio. Links are in the description if you're on YouTube. Or, best of all, you can go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review with your opinions on the buy or sell segment. Now, of course, what's going to wrap it for this week's show is our beloved new segment, the Nay of the Week. Now, if you didn't catch us last week when we debuted it, the way it works is that essentially what a Nay is, it's like to get Nay'd. It's like to get dunked on, to get schooled, maybe to get beat, essentially in this. It's not a good thing. If you get Nay'd, that's not good. That's you obviously messed up big time. But in honor of Draft Week, I'm going to throw it back to arguably the most stacked draft class of all time, which was the 2011 draft, which, of course, the top 2 picks was future MVP Cam Newton and future Super Bowl MVP Von Miller, 2 guys that met in a game that did not turn out well for the number 1 overall pick in this year. But the teams that got Nay'd, I'm going to throw out Tennessee and Jacksonville, because in a absolutely loaded draft class, especially that top 10, Alex, I'm gonna take you through this top 10. Besides these 2 teams, Cam Newton, Von Miller, Marcel Darius, AJ Green, Patrick Pearson, Julio Jones, Aldon Smith, Tyron Smith. So you get those 8, right? All really good, real solid picks right there, especially at the top 2. Tennessee, they take Jake Locker, and Jacksonville, you take Blaine Gabbert. That's getting Nay'd in an absolutely stacked draft class.
Yeah, that is really, really tough for the 2 teams that then compounded those picks, those issues by then drafting Blake Bortles, drafting Marcus Mariota,
one of the biggest butts of all time.
Yeah, 2 teams that just cannot figure out the draft process. Cannot figure out the draft. So what are they going to do? The Jags are going to tank and get the best quarterback prospect we've had since Andrew Luck, and the Titans are going to look into Ryan Tannehill becoming, the only guy to resurrect his career after getting drafted early and not panning out with this first team. So, yeah, that's a tough look for these guys, and that takes me over to another in honor of Draft Week, in honor of everything that is wrong with the draft process. Nay of the Week goes to Williamson High School in Louisiana. And if you're saying, what is Williamson High School in Louisiana? I'm going to tell you right now. It is the destination of our favorite draft bust ever, Jamarcus Russell. Jamarcus Russell went from being able to throw the ball 70 yards on his knees over everything. He can throw it to the moon from anywhere, to now he is the quarterback's coach on the varsity high school team.
Not even the head coach. Oh, not even the coordinator.
So this is a tough look. And while what Williamson High School themselves, they're not getting Nay'd, but the fact that Jamarcus Russell went from number 1 overall draft pick to now not even becoming good enough to be the head coach at Williamson High School in Louisiana. That in itself is a nay-nay. And so, tough look for first-round quarterbacks. I mean, they get all of the glory, all of the talk, all of the buzz leading up to the draft. But I'll tell you what, after the draft, and case in point right here, in I can't remember even when it was, 2016, 2017, whatever the Mitch Trubisky draft was. Everyone talked about how Mitch Trubisky was a bust. The pick after Mitch Trubisky, Solomon Thomas, was horrible for the Niners. Did not pick up his option, his fifth-year option. Is now playing on a minimum deal for the Raiders. That pick never gets talked about. So
it's because it's Mitch. The lucky for the Niners that the Bears with Mitch traded up for Mitch.
Yeah. Oh. So I mean, the quarterbacks, they get all the buzz, they get all the talk, but they also get all the buzz, all the talk if they don't pan out. So it is a very, very high magnitude position, and there's a lot of eyeballs on what's going on at quarterback.
You bet it is. And if anyone's more deserving of a nay-nay than Jamarcus Russell, well, that's going to be... You're going to have to mess up big time. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it for this week's NFL Breakdown. Hope you enjoy the hell out of this draft. I hope it goes crazy and we get more than an hour of excitement. I just hope we get like 10 trades on day one. That would just blow me away, and it would give us a lot more stuff to talk about the following week. So let's keep our fingers crossed for our sake too, Alex. Make our job a little bit easier. Then, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, is our fantastic Patreon supporters. Just want to shout those guys out at the end of the show like we usually do. For all your card collecting needs, go follow at the Big Bat Box, over on Instagram. And thank you to big time Patreon Ray. The next one is Neil Wiley and his YouTube channel, Chosen Problems. And also, last but not least, a huge shout out to Ryan Watson. Alex, your thoughts on the NFL draft in 2021 in one word or phrase?
Madness.
Macness.
Oh, God.
Oh.
I was already over it.
Macness.
Show, Ross. End the show. Drew Lockness.
Oh, that's messed up. We'll see you guys next week.